Last night was a Claremont County Republican Party Central Committee meeting in Batavia. They're open meetings. You can come and listen and sit in the side of the room. They're third Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. and get a gander at what goes on with the Republican Party in your county. Last night was one for the ages. The Swamp Rhino faction of the party was strutting their feathers like they were about ready to go to some cotillion. And one of them was Commissioner David Painter with his impassioned defense that putting a Republican ass in every elected seat is all that really matters and competition is not good. We'll come back to that, and I'm actually going to play you an audio clip. But this could be the first in a series of all kind of crazy things last night that to me are completely inconsistent with conservative Republican values. The first one was Gene Schmidt on some bill about mammographies, where I guess we're going to regulate in the Ohio Revised Code everything about when you're allowed to have a mammography and not. And so obviously breast cancer is a very serious thing, and I'm not making light of that. But this is our solution. We were against Obamacare, and now we're at the point where we're going to legislate every procedure and when you're allowed to get it and not get it. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that's not a conservative solution to restoring your power within healthcare. It isn't going to happen because legislators sit there and write bills on every medical procedure, which is apparently what Gene Schmidt is doing and what she thinks. Second thing I put down here that could be an example is making excuses for no legislative actions. Look, our legislature, where we're all screaming about vaccine mandates, losing jobs, they have not met for 3 months. They have not met for 3 months. And the complete clown show of Gene Schmidt in particular is, well, we haven't met because of redistricting the last 2 weeks. It has nothing to do with why you didn't meet in July and August. Nothing to do with that. And are we able to walk and chew gum at the same time with a legislature and a government? Are the only thing we can focus on is preserving your damn seat in the redistricting process while we're losing our jobs because of vaccine mandates and other crap like that. And then the third thing that could be in the series, there's many others, but is Linda Fraley making an impassioned defense of how hard government workers work. I mean, Linda, fantastic. I mean, they work so hard they have to take winters off and go to Florida to hang out at their place in Florida while they're taking a paycheck from you. That's how hard government workers work. It is absurd. It's like Democrats. It is like a union mentality. It's like a teachers union type mentality, not a conservative Republican mentality. But I'm going to focus on David Painter here and his impassioned defense of putting a Republican ass in every elected seat is all that really matters. If you know, David Painter has advised you all to not be like this guy. Don't be like this guy. And I like to say things that this guy believes. I believe our job is to provide efficient government. I believe our job is to provide responsive government, transparent government. I believe we should be fighting for freedom and liberty. I believe our job is to implement conservative policy. We should be weeding out corruption. We should stop cronyism, patronage, and nepotism. Our job is to get government out of the way of business. Our job is to defend the Constitution. Our job is to shrink government and taxes. Our job is to teach the next generation so we don't lose what we have. Our job is to improve our infrastructure. Our job is to create the right environment for good jobs, and on and on and on. That's what this guy stands for. That's what I believe in. But apparently I'm crazy. I'm like the crazy Republican guy in the room that believes this is what we should be worrying about. The things that we tell you we care about versus what apparently we really care about, which is putting a Republican ass in every elected office. So this was a piece of David Painter campaign literature from the past. And I think maybe instead of saying raising the bar for all Claremont County citizens, what it should say based on the audio you're about to hear is put a Republican ass in every office. So let's listen to the audio of David Painter's impassioned defense of putting a Republican ass in every elected office being the thing that we should only care about.
We've had a lot of conversation about endorsement, a lot, about whether we should endorse the primaries, whether we should. And let's just get right on the record. I'm for endorsement of primaries. I'm for endorsement anytime. When you as a Republican Party can get behind candidates and can vet them and get to know them and make no bones about that. I want to separate two things. I want to separate a business strategy and a market niche. I want to talk to you for a second. You hold a supermajority in the House when it comes to Republicans. You hold a supermajority in the Senate. 21 elected officials here in Claremont County. There's a Republican ass every seat. You hold a market niche in your business of putting Republican asses in elected seats, and you do an excellent job at it. You didn't always do a good job at it, and you can probably go back, Gene probably remembers, prior to 1984, this county had a whole lot of Democrats, and I know, Gene, you were only 13 or 14. You know, but the bottom line is this. When you started endorsement primaries, you found out what your market did for you. Then you actually performed that job and put a Republican ass in every elected seat. I want to separate two things. There's a lot of movement out here that people say, well, you know what? If we don't endorse, then we'll get better candidates and we'll get more competition. Competition is good for the consumer. Make no bones about it. It's not good for business if your main objective is to make money. Your main objective is to put Republican asses in seats. And you've got market niche to do it. In my opinion, don't give it up. Because if it was my business, I sure would. Thank you.
Once you get past the dumb line, put a Republican ass in every elected office. I don't know who David Painter's speechwriter is for that line. He actually talked about the two things that are deep in the heart of these swamp rhinos. And the first one was when you, the Republican Party, figured out how to rig the primaries using endorsements, you really found your niche. That it wasn't about principle, the Constitution, conservative values. It was about that figuring out how to rig the primary using elections. And the second thing was competition is good for consumers, but not for us. And who are the consumers of these politicians? You, the voter. Competition is good for the insiders and the swamp creatures, but it isn't good for you, the voters. We can't have that, because if there's competition, like consumers, you might get better prices, you might get better deals, and we don't want any competition within the Republican Party in Claremont County. So remember, I stand for these kind of things: efficient government, lower taxes. This is what I thought. You probably think this is what conservative Republicans in Claremont County are worried about. But they're not worried about this. They're worried about Republican asses in every elected office. That's all that matters, and that's what's really important. And we can't have any competition, because if we have competition, that's good for voters, not for us. It is completely wrong. I think it is immoral, and it leads to a lot of ethical issues. And that's why we have so many politicians in Claremont County that end up in mugshots, because they plead guilty to crimes and have to get out of office. And you might not even know about these stories because they are kept on the down low. We don't really have a useful media in Claremont County. And as long as you don't know about these things, you just keep getting your slate card at the polls and voting the way that you are told. Can you imagine if Abraham Lincoln had founded our party, the Republican Party, saying our founding principle will be clear: do whatever it takes to get Republican asses in office? What if that was his message? No, our party was founded as a party of principle, a party that focused on values, a party that was ready to start from scratch with outsiders. That is not David Painter. That is not the mentality of really more like a teachers union of let's just protect ourselves. It's not about anything we say we stand for. Let's just protect our asses. We really enjoy being chair moisteners in the county building. So I'm going to continue to be this guy, and I'm sure I'll catch a lot of flack about even putting this out and sharing that audio of David Painter's remarks. But you got to learn. You got to hear. You got to know. Our county is a microcosm of the state and of the country. And if you just look in our state, you don't have to go far up the ladder where people that are supposedly Republicans like Mike DeWine, you can't even distinguish them from liberal Democrats. And the same thing happens here in Claremont County. It's why we get nothing done in our state. And I can come back, hopefully I'll get the time, and I'll put out some of these other things that happened at this meeting that are just great illustrations of how disconnected this is with the values that you think that these people are fighting for. They ain't fighting for those values. They're fighting for their ass being in an elected office so they can get some money and they can get more years towards a taxpayer subsidized pension.